What's that?
It's perfect.
You want to be that guy? Wow.
Good morning, everybody.
Wednesday.
Good morning, Wednesday.
Hump day. It's the day. This is why we need this energy. It's the middle of the week.
That's right. It's like 2 p.m. in the afternoon. Like that feeling you get at 2 p.m.
Yeah.
Like if you,
After lunch.
I remember working a desk job and be like 2 o'clock. I'm like, God damn it. I still got 3 more hours to go.
In the middle of the week.
Yeah. In the middle of the week. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it is hump day. What's up, everybody? Good morning. Welcome to DC TV. It is Wednesday, January 18th. It is 9 o'clock in the morning. Where else would you rather be rather than here? It's just Jaime and me today.
Absolutely.
Even though it just says Brad on the bottom screen.
But I'm just a mime. I'm his puppet.
Guys, just looking at the markets right now, I'm seeing S&P that's up around 1/3%. Dow's starting to move its way up as well. NASDAQ is up 0.5%. And then looking at Bitcoin, that's also moving, spiking up here this morning on the heels of PPI numbers that came through that are better than expected. Wholesale numbers have dropped significantly, much more than what was expected. And Bitcoin is now sitting at 21,414. And this is something that we wanted to kind of lead with this morning, just to give you a snapshot of what's to look forward to ahead of today's show. FTX got hacked by $415 million. I know it's not Friday, but I think our conspiracy hats might get thrown on today regarding that. Also, Amazon has a partner for enterprise blockchain tech, and that crypto token has gone absolutely insane. So make sure you're sticking around to hear about that, as well as DCG suspending dividends. That's a story that we've been following for quite some time. So make sure that you guys are staying tuned for all of those stories in just a moment. Plus, our WTF of the day is literally just a what the fuck. Like, as I was reading the story and following the story and pulling up all the information, I was like, this is absolutely insane. So without further ado, as I'd mentioned, wholesale numbers declined 5.5% in December, which is much more than was expected, the 0.1% that Wall Street was hoping for. So we're seeing a pretty decent rise in the markets. Now, I wanted to start with traditional markets first and show you guys what I'm seeing in SPY. And if you guys have kind of caught on over the last, I would say, week and a half, I've been starting to feel a bit more bullish in the markets in general. One of those reasons, as I'd mentioned, was, historically, when we see a decline in the markets on fears of recession and the recession actually shows up, markets actually move higher when Main Street starts to feel it. And the reason being is because of the markets being a forward-looking vessel, right?
So what happens today is already priced in.
Correct.
Is that term.
Absolutely. And so, I think that 2023 could end up being a rather positive year for the markets, even though people like you and me might not be feeling so happy about our financial situations in the overall economy as a consumer. The Wall Street's looking forward to 2024. What's that look like? And that's why the market could be moving in that direction. So I wanted to bring up the SPY chart here. This is your weekly SPY chart. The yellow line is represented by the 50-week moving average. This purple line down here is the 200-week. It actually bounced beautifully off of that 200-week average, and now is starting to test the 50-week average. And you can see that I drew a nice downtrend line here on the SPY as well. We're starting to potentially break up over that. 472.32 was the highs for SPY that we saw back in December of 21. Many of you might recall that. And it's been in a nice steady downtrend since. And if you look at the weekly chart, it's actually nice and organized. But I think that there's a pretty decent chance, especially with this significant fall in PPI numbers. CPI was also lower than expected. I think this trend continues. And a lot of people are misconstruing a peak in inflation versus peak in price. And the peak in price, there is going to be no peak in price. The peak of inflation is essentially how fast things are increasing in price. And that has peaked. It peaked back in July. And now we're starting to see a lot of this fall off of a cliff as far as the rate of increasing inflation. You hear the Fed talk about this all the time, their desire to get back down to 2% inflation. Even when you get back down to 2% inflation, it doesn't mean that prices are going to fall. Prices are still going up. They're just going up by 2% instead of 10.
Right.
So I think, in my opinion, now that we're starting to see layoffs take place, we're starting to see a pretty significant drop in inflation, the rate of inflation.
So there is inflation. It's still growing, but at a slower pace is the logic.
Correct. And the reason why I bring this up is because Jaime had also spoken with me off camera about how there's been kind of somewhat of a correlation between what the major markets are doing, the traditional markets, and Bitcoin. And we've talked about this a lot on the channel as well about, as inflation comes down and the Fed gets forced to either stop raising rates or cut rates, that ends up being good for Bitcoin. We start to see the dollar weaken, and then Bitcoin will start to move back up. And we're starting to see that already. So Jaime, why don't you show everybody what you're seeing on the charts in general?
Absolutely. So if you look, and I'll quickly flip back to the one you had prior.
Sure.
You see the trend here. And for anyone, and by the way, Lord Fenrir, love you, bro. Nothing like putting the announcement out at the last minute, slackers. My apologies. That was my fault. I'll do better.
Wait, what announcement?
This one right here.
No, what announcement is he talking about? Did I miss it?
No announcement. I'm sorry, his post.
Oh.
So we'll do better. So looking at the market trend, we're looking for this ceiling, this glass ceiling, to break for a confirmation that, yes, indeed, things will be better. And the forward-looking actions of the investors would be bullish, despite what we commoners and the consumers are experiencing in the market itself.
Correct.
And that's how these move. What I'm waiting for, and the reason I point out to Standard & Poor or the SPY is the fact that it's been held down. And now even the 50 moving average, you can see how beautifully SPY tends to respect the 200 and the 50.
Yep.
So I've done the same thing, and we're waiting to see, all right, guys, will this take one more leg down to bounce and attempt to cross, or will it attempt to cross now? One of the things we're speaking off camera at this moment, earlier this morning, is the fact that we're seeing a lot of layoffs occurring everywhere from Goldman Sachs to Microsoft to a lot of the large organizations, which it's been made public, but not really covered yet. Once we start seeing those results, you're going to see the market react. And usually you would think, oh, see, there's proof that everything's going to shit, but the market doesn't see it that way. The investors themselves, or Wall Street, they look at it as a bullish sign, meaning costs are being squashed. Thus, there will be more profits coming. So looking at that logic, now we move on SPY. Now we're going to look at, there we go. Sorry, guys. Here we go. So here's Bitcoin on the same weekly. What I'm looking at this very moment is, and I was speaking with Brad earlier, the fact that the red one, let me remove the fibs. Here we go. Boom. And keep it real clean and simple. The 200 moving average is that big red one. And then the green one is the 50 moving average, just like we were looking at SPY. Bitcoin has never had a death cross in its history of those two. And it had a close call way back in 2015. What's important to note here is the fact that it's projected to cross below, have the death cross somewhere around February 6th, if the price remains in this trajectory. And all of a sudden we see this, what's called a morning star. So if you look at it from a macro, the monthly, it's clear to see where you had a drop and now a rise at the same level. Usually in trends, it's a trend reversal pattern. Of course, until the monthly closes, we won't know for sure. And we have two resistance points we're battling at. It goes from this point right here where the yellow indicator is, and it ends at the 50 monthly moving average. So we have a pretty thick ceiling to get through for confirmation of a reversal pattern. So coming back to the weekly now, The only way I can see this becoming a fake out is if the price action breaks this ceiling of the 200 with the 50 and it stays above it and then continues rising. That's the only way I would be as a swing trader, where I'm a high time frame swing trader, saying, okay, this is indeed a reversal, and now we can start coming in. We never stop dollar cost averaging. That's another strategy. We always speak of both of them, just so you're aware, because there's a soft way of entering, a sure way of entering, where you're not losing your ass.
Yep.
And you're always investing in things that you believe in. At this moment, I enter my larger positions, I'm actually looking at, will this happen and confirm as a death cross? Will Bitcoin rise and just tap it and now take the next leg down where my thicker buys are located? I will change my thesis if it manages to break this before the death cross.
Right.
So I'm in a holding position, and just like SPY and everything else. But if it breaks, I see it will match traditional markets bullish feeling forward. So that's my take at the moment. That's what we're waiting for. There's a lot of news coming out where, and we're going to cover that, about billions being found with FTX and all that stuff. But what does that really mean?
Yeah,
we'll take a look at it.
And I think the bottom line is that we're at a point where it could go either way. You can make arguments for the bears, you can make arguments for the bulls, but I think the arguments for bulls are starting to get a little bit stronger. Whereas, the second half of this year, especially on this channel, we've been making the argument that we're just going to remain in bearish territory. Crypto winter is here to stay. And then as we've gotten towards the beginning of this year, and really as things have kind of fallen as far as inflation is concerned, you start to get a little bit more bullish, but not necessarily like, okay, let's just bet the farm on going long. You know what I mean? So
yes.
So that's where we're at right now. I think we're at a very interesting point to kind of see where the markets are headed, but definitely starting to feel a little bit more bullish than I probably have, like I said, for the last 6 months, I think.
Yeah. So let's see how January closes and what happens with that trend line on SPY.
Yep.
And what's happening with Bitcoin. It will be a telling year, or at least give us an insight over what's spring's going to look like for us.
Yeah. If history repeats itself, I would imagine that we're going to have a pretty decent year. So that being said, guys, if you want to continue this conversation, make sure you go check us out in our Discord. The link is down in the description below. We'd love to have you in our community and continue that conversation so we can keep growing with you and be a part of something bigger than ourselves.
Yeah. For our kids.
That's right. So make sure you hit that like button as well if you're enjoying the stream so far. And as always, let's get into the WTF news of the day. Now, this is another one that our friend Brandon brought up. And he's not here to help us with this one.
Yeah, he's the one who planted this damn thing.
Yeah, like, where are you at, bro?
Come on, Brandon. We don't care if it's late for you.
I know.
Jump on, bro.
So I'm not gonna. I actually had a picture that I edited, but I'm not gonna show you the picture of this guy because it's actually his full naked body. This is how we're starting the WTF news of the day. We will be getting into a lot of the FTX drama, as well as Amazon has a crypto token that has absolutely taken off, plus a lot of other things. So make sure that you guys are staying tuned for that. I just had to get to this WTF news of the day because it was just like, what the fuck? Literally what this segment is made for. So if you guys haven't caught the news, 2 were injured after a Boulder police officer collides with a car en route to a call. And a lot of it had to do with a certain person who was screaming on top of a garbage truck. And I wish just Google it. Just do yourself and Google it. I'm not gonna. We don't need to get banned from YouTube. But according to Reddit and other sources, his diatribe consisted of accusations that the crowd didn't know what a small penis looked like. Koreans are, and this guy actually was on a crazy trip. Ended up actually trying to circumcise himself because he was not circumcised. Jaime's looking at this picture right now.
Guys.
He ended up doing all kinds of crazy shit and then ended up getting him down. Anyways, he like attacked some other salon, went crazy. He was on some wild meth trip. But I don't know what's going on in Boulder. But this is some Florida man shit right here.
Bro. Yeah. I like the comments too. Like, of course, he's naked in the photo.
Butt naked on Reddit.
And then people are commenting like a frightened turtle.
Because you're in Boulder, Colorado in the middle of winter.
It's cold and you're butt naked. Of course you're going to look like a frightened
Your
turtle.
penis literally has sucked into your body and started to shoot out your asshole. It's so cold out there.
So, guys, it's crazy out there. Watch your garbage.
Let this be a lesson. Don't do meth, kids.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is some bath salt, like I said, Florida man type shit. Yeah. Anyways, that's your WTF news of the day. Go look it up. I was just blown away. There he is. Nice of you.
Dude, my wife drove past that while it was happening.
Did she
you're
really?
kidding?
Yeah.
Was she impressed with you after that?
Yeah. She's like, you don't have a tiny little bloody trash mounting. Yeah.
Amazing. Good to have you, Brandon. No matter what time you arrive.
Yeah. What's up, man?
How are you?
Kick rocks.
All right. So good to see you this morning, my man. You came in just in time for the tail end of our WTF, but we're going to be talking about what's been going on with FTX. So if you guys didn't catch the news, FTX said in a report that creditors on Tuesday had about $415 million in cryptocurrency that had been stolen in hacks. FTX has said that it recovered over $5 billion in crypto. If you guys haven't caught that, $8.5 billion was what they were looking for. That basically had been stolen from retail investors by Sam Bankman-Fried, allegedly. Cash and liquid securities, but that significant shortfalls remained at both its international and U.S. crypto exchanges. We already knew about that. FTX attributed some of the shortfalls to the hack, saying that 323 million in crypto had been hacked from FTX's international exchange and 90 million had been hacked from its U.S. exchange since it filed for bankruptcy on November 11th. Sam Bankman-Fried continues to say that they were solvent. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But thoughts on this? Do we put our conspiracy hats on already before Friday, Brandon? And say that this was probably an orchestrated thing?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Well, to be clear, it's only technically a conspiracy if you're attributing motive. If you're just saying, hey, these things happened, where do you draw the line? And it's obvious, it's technically not a conspiracy. There.
All right.
Well, the motive would be to keep yourself out of jail. Were some of these funds used for his bail, for his $250 million bail, of which two of those people were asked to remain anonymous by the courts, by the lawyers, I should say.
Maybe this is a big scheme just to get like really rare League of Legends skins.
Yeah.
It could be.
Support his vice, you know?
Yeah.
We all got it.
I wonder if he's going to be playing League of Legends while he's testifying in court. He'll just be on his iPad. No, it'll just be on his iPad, right on the stand.
You'll just hear him yell, "Damn it, Akali!" And the judge is like, "Excuse me, order in the court."
Bro. Or
these days.
What's the one that entered screaming? A moment where
Talk about Leroy Jenkins.
Leroy Jenkins.
Yeah.
Pull a Sam Bankman-Fried SBF and runs in.
That's right.
He is Leroy Jenkins, isn't he?
Yeah.
Is it Kizinit?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Bless you.
Kizinit.
Kizinit? Did somebody sneeze?
Kizinit.
That's an interesting screen name. It's not really a hack if you know the passwords.
Yes, because it was so easy. And meanwhile, I remember the tweets that came out. It was like, oh, it's being drained by a hacker, etc. And then all of a sudden the news came out that the Bahamian authorities had secured the funds.
Yep.
So it's just like it just said, yeah, well, someone knew the password clearly because they called it a hack, maybe to try to divert attention, but it was headed somewhere known.
Yeah.
So who knows where these assets were found and they're being released? Because if they say they found it, how'd they find it? Did someone give up the keys? Did someone point to where, I think he's trying to do cleanup
Yeah.
before his trial in October. In the end,
What if this
So,
whole thing is just a self-custody advertisement?
oh, plot twist.
Like, hey, this wouldn't happen if you were holding your own keys.
Yeah, I
This is a
can
big
imagine.
giant lesson.
I did this to teach you.
That's
Wax on, wax off.
right.
That's easy enough to fly in this
I know, right?
society nowadays.
Yeah. So if you guys haven't caught this, this is according to Reuters. FTX has recovered more than $5 billion. This is not Sam Bankman-Fried, by the way, recovering this. This is John Ray III, who also handled the Enron debacle. And so now John Ray looks to have recovered more than $5 billion in liquid assets, but the extent of the customer losses and the collapse of the company founded by Sam Bankman-Fried is still unknown, again, according to Reuters. And an attorney for the company told a U.S. bankruptcy court on a Wednesday. The company, which valued over a year ago, was at $32 billion, filed for bankruptcy, as we all know, and the story continues. So we'll continue to track this. Obviously, we'll have our tinfoil hats on for Friday. Make sure you're tuning in at 9 a.m. Eastern time on Friday as we go live again and talk some more conspiracy shit. I'm sure this will show up there, but but man, I would love to just be able to hack my own company and steal my own money.
Yeah, the software was there. Yeah.
Lord Fenrir says, I hacked my phone with my fingerprint this morning. This white hat stuff is getting pretty serious. Love that. Indo Crypto says this is orchestrated by the Ledger.
Self-custody.
Yeah, right.
So it went to self-custody. All those funds that were disappearing were not going to an exchange. Otherwise, they would identify, hey, it's Huobi or it's here.
Right.
Suspended. No, it was actually going to cold wallets.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll continue to follow this, guys. If you're enjoying the stream so far, make sure you hit that thumbs up. We certainly would appreciate it. If you're new, welcome. We are DC TV. We go live every Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 9 a.m. Eastern time. And we're here for about an hour or so, depending on what we're talking about. Sometimes we go late. Sometimes we end early. But it is great to have you here. Welcome. If you're returning, welcome back. And then also make sure you go check us out in Discord. The link is in the description below. We'd love to have you guys hang out with us over there as well. Continue some of these conversations we're having with you this morning and help grow our community. Again, it's absolutely free to join. We'd love to have you guys over there. Okay, so next topic here is DCG. If you guys haven't been following the story, we've been following it here for the last several weeks, talking about Genesis and Gemini and the entire issues going on there.
Grayscale Bitcoin.
Correct.
Also,
the latest news here now is that DCG is suspending their dividends amid distress at the Genesis unit. This is according to CoinDesk. In response to the current market environment, DCG has been focused on strengthening their balance sheet. This is a quote by them. By reducing operating expenses and preserving liquidity. It told shareholders later on Tuesday. This is yesterday's news. Last night, I should say. The news kind of came out late last night. So is this just one more thing? I mean, we've been talking about Gemini and Genesis, and if they go under, then this could be a capitulatory moment for Bitcoin.
Yes. This
is one of those bearish arguments that we've been making here as of late. Could this be just another measure that they're trying to take to save their solvency? Because I mean, we've talked about how they could be facing this huge bankruptcy issue. Tamp has talked about how she thinks that they should not, things should be done so that they do not go into bankruptcy. That was her thoughts and opinions on the matter. She hopes that they do not.
So do I, because
you're in Grayscale, right?
Yeah, I'm in Grayscale, yeah.
So I think that there is obviously some things to unpack here, but give me some thoughts on this latest development with them stopping their dividend. This isn't something that I would say, in my opinion, is would be too alarming if it was a regular stock, right? Like we saw Ford during COVID halt their dividend, but they weren't in danger of going bankrupt. But this feels a bit different to me.
I still feel they're hedging the logic dictates they have to retain as much liquidity as possible. Halting or suspending dividend disbursements, of course, is one of those strategies without sacrificing the company's solvency. It actually secures the company's solvency of paying what it owes out to its investors.
Yeah.
And the exchanges, they're securing the asset itself, the security itself, to sustainability. levels, so sustainable levels. And I think it's just a financial strategy of keep the lights on, and meanwhile they resolve this problem they're having with Gemini, Genesis, and all the players below. So
yeah, this is financial triage. I've seen this happen at a lot of different companies over the years, where like when things are doing really, really well, what they'll do is they'll give some sort of a kickback to everyone in their business, and including the customers. They'll even like give coupons and stuff just to make everyone feel a little warm and fuzzy. But what they tend to do when they start running on hard times is they say, okay, well, what can we back off on and not see a big punishment to the business, right? And it goes all the way to the point where people do what Jaime just said, where they're like, how do we float this out until the safety nets start arriving, right? So that tends to happen, where sometimes people will just buy time, right? They'll wait for the bear market winter to blow over, and then they can start putting the pieces back together. And so I think that's exactly what's happening here. I think they're actually fine as far as a solvency perspective goes, but I do think they're hurting. I do think they're like, yeah, we kind of need to pay these debts, or someone's going to get a knock on their door and get a negotiation tactic delivered to their kneecap. So
yeah. And Indo Crypto asks a good question: is if they do go under, would it have the same effect as FTX had on the market? Yes. As a matter of fact, well, what happens to the Bitcoins, Brandon?
The reason I say not is because this isn't altcoins. FTX had a crap ton of altcoins.
Yes, so that's outright fraud. But now, if they liquidate Bitcoin, that's I forgot the number, maybe 6,000, or it's a large amount. According to their website, they have 13.5 billion assets under management just on the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust. So the big question is, 13.5 billion, would this come onto the market? All the Bitcoins locked into the GBTC. And if it does, what effect will it have on the Bitcoin market with a flood of these Bitcoins?
You're asking if this would pump volume?
Would it pump volume, or would it drop?
Are you suggesting that if Grayscale were to collapse, those Bitcoins would be in general circulation?
Yes, because they have to liquidate.
That would increase volume of circulation.
Correct. Right now, it's out of circulation. It's being held. All these Bitcoins are being held. 13.5 billion. Right. Not necessarily precisely that number, but around 13 billion
dollars worth of Bitcoin.
Yes, sir. I can't do the conversion at the moment, but those are being held by an entity at this very moment. Mm-hmm. If Grayscale were to go under, that part of the proceedings is the release of these Bitcoins into the open market. I don't think it'll be instantly. The news would trigger a
panic,
drop,
for sure.
Panic, of course. But
619.
Chapter 11 or whatever chapters they're going to file through, until that closes, then it would actually come out to the open market. Just like Mt. Gox, it's still being dispersed to the open market. This year's was postponed to September, I think it was. So what do you think is going to happen if GBTC fails? Do you think?
Yeah, if 619 Bitcoins find their way into general circulation, I think this would. What's that?
6,000 Bitcoin. You said 600.
600 is not a lot.
Correct.
Yeah, you're right. I'm tripping. So I think there's a big difference between the markets of people who are, pwned by FTX versus pwned by Grayscale. Grayscale has a lot of traditional investors involved in the space, as opposed to FTX has the general population involved. So thank you, Lord Fenrir.
And he said he's driving, so Lord Fenrir, be careful, bro.
Dude's gangster. Yeah.
He's awesome.
Yeah.
Didn't mean to interrupt your thought process.
No, you're good. So I just think that they're different attacks, right? Like if if my homie Yogi, who plays drums in the local band, if he's pissed off versus if, you know, someone who's been a contributing member of society for a long time, has a lot of money in their 401ks and is slapping that onto something like Grayscale, right?
Mhm.
Those are different types of money. That's different types of people too. So I think this is something that would affect bigger investors, which would wheel the price even harder, is my argument.
Perfect. And that's precisely the question Indo Crypto was asking, is what effect would it be as much as FTX? FTX, of course, we all know what it is, and for what it was, it's just outright fraud. In the case of GBTC, with DCG, the parent company, going, I don't think DCG would go under necessarily.
No.
Why? Because they would liquidate their subsidiaries to keep their footing in existence. But let's say me, the investor, I would, of course, be losing out on the Bitcoin represented by my investment here, and it will go to the creditors. And then once it's released, sold in the open market to pay the creditors, that's a second leg down, I would see it as, because now this Bitcoin is coming into the open market for liquidation to pay all the creditors. So
let me ask you something, and this is a slight pivot. We're talking about Grayscale and GBTC, and now we're obviously seeing the risks with owning something like that, right? And we talk on this channel quite a bit about just owning Bitcoin and dollar cost averaging and what have you. I think I know the answer to this, Jaime, but you know, you have this in your retirement account, GBTC Grayscale.
Yes.
You've been very transparent about that. But
and not financial advice. Don't follow my mistakes. Go.
Yeah, this is just what he's doing. My question, I guess, would be, if you understand the risks and all the knowledge that you have on Bitcoin and how much you actually believe in Bitcoin, and while also being invested in that, why even bother with Grayscale knowing the risks that are involved with it?
So at the time, when I made the decision to invest in Grayscale, I couldn't go to my 401k and put actual Bitcoin in it. So
right.
Grayscale was the only.
But you could still buy Bitcoin outright.
Which I did. The thing is, how do I put Bitcoin into my retirement fund that I don't have to touch? What was the best? Like, there is no.
I guess my question is, you don't have to touch your Bitcoin though either if you don't want to.
Tax penalty is what he's talking about. Yeah. Like if you pull money out of a 401k, it's taxed.
Before you're 59 and a half. Yeah,
correct.
I understand all that. But
so knowing that this is a long-term play, and after doing all my research, I know Bitcoin is a long-term play.
Yeah.
And I knew Grayscale has been gunning for ETF. To me, it was a logical bet where, okay, how do I add Bitcoin to my retirement fund without paying taxes, and it's still part of my retirement?
But you'll still have to pay taxes as if it's regular income.
If I pulled it out.
If you pulled it out at 59 and a half, you still have to pay taxes on gains made, and it'll be taxed as regular income.
Correct. But it grew with Bitcoin.
Sure.
Because I see that trajectory coming. Yeah. So my thought process at the time, because of course I do have Bitcoin on the direct Bitcoin, the gold itself, not an IOU. To me, this is an IOU.
Right.
So this was the closest I could get to adding Bitcoin to my retirement fund. Without, I mean, an IOU. I know it's a poor choice, but the logic was,
I'm not saying it's a poor choice at all. I'm just trying to understand.
Yeah. So here's the logic. Even though there was a premium and now it's a discount attached to the whole thing, I know their trajectory, their plan ultimately was to convert to ETF. So if I could get in at whatever time it was, kind of like the dollar cost average principle.
Sure.
Where there were parts of the portfolio where I'm like, you know what, let me rebalance it and add GBTC. The only thing that's related closely to Bitcoin besides, let's say, Hive blockchain, which is a mining company.
I was going to say that, or like a Riot or Mara.
Correct.
Or something like that.
Riot had not really taken off at that time, so Hive was on my radar. And by the way, Hive now is using American-made ASIC chips.
Yeah, we should have talked about that. We'll talk about that on Friday.
But so I'm always looking, and so how do I add Bitcoin? That was the only asset out there that a 401k because I tried to buy direct.
Yeah.
Of course, Fidelity or whoever my exchanges said, no, you can't. I saw that, yes, GBTC was allowed. So I said, you know what, let me balance the portfolio and put it in there. And I let it go.
Mm-hmm.
And then as time goes by, I add more to it. With this market top that occurred, of course, we've seen the bloodbath
Right.
where it's gone from. But I still don't believe it's dead. It's just like DCG. I mean, at this moment, I know where Bitcoin's going.
Yeah.
Ultimately, I know what the technology is, what it means, and the fact that the SEC is saying everything else is a security except Bitcoin. It tells me, okay, this is still a safe bet in the long play. I'm in it for the long play itself. If, let's say, GBTC fails to have an ETF, but another organization launches an ETF, exchange traded fund, I will convert my GBTC over to that ETF. My ultimate goal is ETF in the end.
Okay.
Unless the markets get crazy or visionary enough, see the hint, to allow direct Bitcoin in our 401ks. At that point, yeah, in a heartbeat, I'm converting all to that asset.
But so just to address a couple comments here, Lord
Mhm.
Fenrir says you can add BTC to 401ks with companies like Fidelity.
I did.
But
Yes.
is that physical Bitcoin? I don't want to
No.
say physical Bitcoin, but it's still the IOU version of Bitcoin, right? It's just like buying Bitcoin on Webull or Robinhood, correct?
So
You don't have like a wallet for your Bitcoin in your 401k, I would assume.
Yeah, GBTC is giving you a derivative of it,
But
not the actual Bitcoin.
I'm just addressing Lord Fenrir's in general.
Yes.
You're not buying actual Bitcoin through your 401k account.
At the time I invested,
Correct.
You could not do it. I know Fidelity is releasing direct Bitcoin buys, and
Okay.
that's who is managing my fund. Actually, is Fidelity.
Right.
At this
Are
moment.
you talking Chuck E. Cheese token IOUs? Or are you talking you have private keys?
That's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
According to what Fidelity is pushing for, that, and Fidelity is getting pushback from central bank, like a lot of traditional market organizations saying, don't do this.
Yeah.
Fidelity is actually pushing for actual GBTC, and they would do the custody of it.
Okay.
It's being pushed. It's actually, I'll find the article. But yes, Lord Fenrir is absolutely right. They're moving in that direction.
Okay.
And that's what I meant by the moment they allow me to go direct, but buy GBTC.
Right.
You know,
And
bye, Felicia.
That's probably another risk for something like GBTC, I would imagine, because the only people that I would guess that would go after a GBTC rather than buying Bitcoin outright would be, the old heads, maybe some boomers that are just afraid of buying Bitcoin, but they'd rather just buy a stock that's related to Bitcoin if they somewhat believe in it, just to diversify or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's definitely a lot of risks still with GBTC. We'll see where that goes. A couple other comments. Justin Time says he holds MicroStrategy in his Roth IRA, which leads me to my next question. For those of you who are watching, leave it in the comments if you guys wouldn't mind. What do you own outside of crypto, meaning in the traditional markets that are related to crypto? So Justin Time just talked about MicroStrategy. You heard us talking about Riot and Mara and some other ones, Hive. Let us know in the comments if you don't have physical cryptocurrency or Bitcoin. I say physical, but there's nothing physical about it. You know what I'm trying to say. If you don't own Bitcoin outright, what is it that you own that's related to that, perhaps, that you still see value in? Let us know in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you guys on that.
And I see this other comment by Charles, which I precisely did. So you can hold crypto with a self-directed Roth IRA that had self-directed. So what that is you would have to convert your 401k into an IRA.
Yeah.
And usually that happens when you leave corporate and you enter the self-employed or other scenarios.
Yeah.
They allow you to roll it into one of those. And yes, that is another good. Just take a look at the fees. I know GBTC is guilty of like 2% annual fee. There's fees in
all
there.
ETFs have fees.
Yes, absolutely. So as long as they're not absolutely raping you in it, I agree with Charles. That is a good entry point too. So I love your question because I'm sure so many of our viewers and so many people are looking at how do I add Bitcoin or crypto, two different things,
Yep.
into my long term and just let it ride, let it grow. And wait for SEC and the everyone else to make a decision.
The
what the fuck
adoption,
is this? Let it grow.
regulation, all that to take place.
Yes, absolutely. So please share with us, guys. We'd love to hear you, and we'd love to create a list so we can share it with everyone. Not financial advice, though.
Yeah, I feel like it's just a common question that I would imagine gets asked a lot. Yes, Justin,
I'm with you, bro.
I appreciate you, brother. I appreciate it. Wasn't implying that you didn't, but yes,
correct. Same here. Yeah.
Lord Fenner says my Beanie Baby collection is in the retirement. I need.
No, that says Benny Baby. Maybe it's like Ben Shapiro Beanie Babies or something.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Justin Time says also owns Block,
SQ,
formerly known as Square. They also own a ton of Bitcoin too.
And those are companies that are directly involved with
Jack Dorsey's probably one of the biggest.
Yes. And so
maxis right now.
Those are, you know what? We will get that list. I'll add it to my to-do list because that's a great share for people who, okay, I'm limited. I can't put it here. I would like
people who want to buy stocks that are related to crypto.
Yes.
Okay.
It kind of
let's
like
do that.
Energy stocks and all. Okay.
We can do top 10 stocks related to Bitcoin.
Perfect.
Video idea already.
Absolutely.
Charles Wright chimes in and says you can open self-directed IRAs and not have rollovers, and yes, you will have fees depending on the trust company and such, but you have the keys at the end of the day. They're still your keys.
Absolutely.
Justin Time's looking forward to the list. Yeah, absolutely, my man.
Yeah, we're here.
So that was a great topic. A little bit longer than I expected it to be, but that's okay. We're still
we're growing.
It's great content.
I'm a grower, not a shower.
Unlike that Boulder guy from Boulder, Colorado.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, he just smashed it up.
A WTF.
Neither.
Yeah,
well, the turtle actually.
He's a Ken doll now.
He's a Ken doll. Yeah, I was thinking about like that song, "The Eye of the Tiger." He's like the eye of the turtle. You know.
Yeah. All right, moving on. I did want to bring this to you guys as well. I forgot that most of you guys don't pay for Barron's. I pay for Barron's because excellent. It's worth the money. Barron's is worth the money. It's not a whole lot. If you guys are into investing and you want to check out a good what is it? It used to be periodical back in the day. I'm dating myself. I know Jaime knows what a periodical is. Do they still call them periodicals?
Hey, respect your elders, bro. Respect your elders here.
Dad over here knows what a periodical is. He probably also knows what a what is that? What was that? Card catalog? Oh yeah. Card catalog.
Isn't that when like a girl turns like 13 or so?
Oh, yeah.
No. Serious. Jesus Christ. What are you doing?
It's nice.
Stripping down. Jesus, I didn't know what was happening. I was preparing myself for anything. But so if you guys haven't checked this out, Amazon has a partner for enterprise blockchain tech. Its crypto token has gone absolutely insane according to Barron's. They are with Amazon Web Services, has partnered with Ava Labs in a bid to accelerate the adoption of blockchain technology by enterprises, institutions, and governments. The move has sent the linked avalanche, AVAX, soaring higher in recent days, outperforming even Bitcoin amid a major bull run in the biggest cryptocurrency. Amazon cloud computing arm AWS announced a partnership last week to support the infrastructure and decentralized app ecosystem of Avalanche, which is the blockchain platform developed by Ava Labs. According to the CEO, I'm proud that we have implemented a protocol that can accommodate millions of participants with near instant finality. Our work with Amazon can accelerate the positive impact of Avalanche. I think it does a lot more than that, though. I think it, we've talked about this, about the adoption of cryptocurrency in general and Bitcoin itself. This is just another, I think, significant, and maybe this is just kind of flown under the headlines a little bit, but I think this is a significant development that Amazon's really pushing forward with this, despite all of the bullshit with FTX, and we just talked about Grayscale and all of that. These major companies are still moving forward with it. We've heard Google talk about it a little bit, Apple's dabble, but I think this is one of the major moves from the big tech stocks that we've seen in recent time.
And why? And we've brought this up multiple times in our conversations on stream. It's because they're adopting the technology. These are proofs, literally. So if you're in an industry where you want auditable ledger that actually proves what you've done, or the metrics or the information, or that reach a consensus on data. These are mechanisms that AVAX, Ethereum, Atom, all these blockchains are trying to, and Stellar Lumens is, I think, is the one backed by IBM. You'll see quite a few of these pushing that adoption rate. And that's what we mean, where despite all these terrible news that we would see, terrible, quote unquote, like currently, the meltdowns, and FTX absolutely is just fraud, outright financial fraud, nothing to do with crypto. They use crypto as a tool, but they didn't even.
Yeah, Bernie Madoff Ponzi scheme at its finest.
Absolutely. So get that out of your mind. Now we're speaking in terms of the adoption of the technology is a sign of what is actually happening in the industry. So when you see like the likes of Amazon or Fidelity, like Lord Fenrir mentioned, of allowing their users to gain actual access to Bitcoin, and BlackRock actually opening it up for qualified investors to gain actual ownership of Bitcoin. I almost said Circle K, but Circle USDC issue.
Bullish on gas stations.
It's legit, bro.
Get those burgers. So those are there's actual deployment of the technology out there. These are the results, and this is what you see. Yeah. Amazon sees the use of the technology and the application of the technology for consensus, for distributed, not necessarily distributed, but in this case, auditable ledger of their transactions. So it can go to court. That's absolute truth what's in there, because if it was accepted and both parties signed on it, it is an actual transaction that occurred. Otherwise, you're in trouble, right? Because now you have evidence telling you otherwise if you change your tune later.
So this is the chart of AVAX. If you guys are following along here, it obviously has had a pretty decent move based off of a lot of things. Of course, Bitcoin influences everything, and I'm sure AVAX move has had that similar influence. But then this partnership announcement, I'm sure, has accelerated this. And as I'd mentioned, it's been outperforming Bitcoin since the recent bottom. I don't know. Is AVAX something worth looking into?
Yes.
As far as perhaps
I would love to give you a technical background on this, because I have done days and weeks and months of study on all these platforms. So the big deal with Avalanche, it fits into a pretty similar category as Polygon. And what I mean by that is it was created to expand Ethereum. Ethereum was running into some very, very clear bottlenecks. And so Polygon popped up to handle the scaling of all the same use cases that Ethereum was already trying to tackle, but it was too expensive and too slow. And so that's what Polygon essentially does, is it gives you a side chain that has the ability to expand with much better scaling capabilities than Ethereum. Now, Avalanche really was created with that same scaling focus, but specifically for Web3 decentralized applications, so dApps. It's specifically designed to handle like Web3 integrations and dApps. And they use like subnetting in order to create like your own little network of nodes that can talk to each other. And that's why it can be fast. You can dedicate specific hardware, specific nodes to whatever task you're trying to handle. So Ethereum doesn't let you do that. You have to use the public setup. So clearly you can see how people who are bullish on metaverse, people who are bullish on getting Web3 integrations into their company early, just so they can, flex that first mover advantage. They are looking at tools like Avalanche to build applications that actually don't suck, because what would be terrible is if you spent millions of dollars on R&D, you paid a bunch of sweaty nerds to turn pizza into code, and at the end of it, it's slow and expensive. That would be tragic. And so that's why you're seeing companies like Amazon say, hey, we have to find technologies that do have the faculties to yield a positive result, and just double down on them and give SDKs around them and standardize it so that we can funnel talented software developers towards this tool stack, right? And that's one of our criticisms of like Cardano, for example. There's just not very many people who program in Haskell, right? And so because there's not many people who program in Haskell, you're basically building a cryptocurrency on this big idea that requires specific skills to be learned, as opposed to just giving the nerds general tooling and saying, hey, come on over here. It's not a big stack you have to learn. It's things you're already kind of familiar with. So keep that in mind. Nerds turn pizza into code.
And all you have to do is slide pizza under the door and you good.
Right.
Yeah. FTX style, right?
So in the case of, if you want to look at from the bottom around January 1st to it peaked, just AVAX went up 74% in growth, and it's now holding just under the 200 moving average. You just mentioned the metaverse, Brandon, and here's a token that's in the metaverse, and this one has rallied and actually is testing the top of the 200 moving average as support at the moment.
That looks awfully bullish.
Yes, that's an eruption.
I can give some other news
That one went up
that's
100%.
causing that. I don't support this, but the World Economic Forum is currently talking about metaverse integrations. Now, I think their reasons are because they want to control what people see and don't see.
Mhm.
But I do think metaverse has a decentralized application as well, where it allows people to do what they freaking want to do, and you don't get to tell them what they don't get to do. So I think that this is very, very similar. This conversation is going to go in the same direction as self-custody and IOU certificates, right? It's going to go in the direction of, do you have self-custody? Are you building data sets that you are the owner in a proper Web3 environment? Or are you getting a knockoff version of Web3 where some parts might be, but they can actually, remove you from the system if you don't play by the rules, right? I think that we ought to be careful with what Web3 tools we adopt, and just make sure that we truly are self-custody in all of our data sets. And if not, don't adopt the tool.
Yes.
See it as a centralized system. They're going to play these word games with you. Don't let them do that.
Yep.
And that's a great point, Brandon, because that's the meaning. Web 1 is just showing information. Web 2, just for you that aren't too comfortable with the technology itself, Web 2 is where you can transact, but if you're not paying for it, you're the data, or you're the product. Web 3 is the actual shift to where you own your own data. You have custody of your own data, and only if you wish to do so, because they're paying you to do so, or you signed a contract to do so, you will release that type of information out to the public. So it's data ownership is one of the huge leaps out of many leaps of Web 3. Which is in line with what Brandon just stated as our architect.
Yeah, well, truly, I'm paying attention to what some of these, creeps at World Economic Forum are talking about, and they're talking very, very, very bullish about Web3. What they're trying to get people to do is to no longer touch the grass outside, and to put basically a holovisor on, so you won't see garbage. That's literally what language they used. They want to make sure that you don't see the garbage around you, because you never leave your house and you're a big sweaty nerd who just pounds Cheeto bags and lays like a slob on the floor in a human-shaped hole amongst rubble, So like that's kind of the image that they're painting, as opposed to traders are saying, oh, big money saying they're moving in these directions. I think that's what's happening with Sandbox, by the way, just in time.
Yes. There you go.
I think people are seeing like, oh, well, apparently big money is going to throw their money at metaverse blindly. They're not really going to vet out what metaverses are reasonable or not. They're just going to throw their money at it. So, and in short term, they're just buying the news and seeing if they can trade it before everyone else finds out.
We see that with every disruptor, though. I mean, we saw that with, weed stocks and that sort of thing. Everybody was, oh, you're getting cannabis? Let's just throw money at it. I mean, we saw it all over the place, especially
electric vehicles.
Yeah, electric vehicles, even cryptocurrencies. Gosh, I remember it was when Bitcoin made its first huge run in 2017. Over the counter side of things, penny stocks. Anytime a penny stock mentioned anything crypto, it went bananas, absolutely bananas. So like this is just another iteration of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
it's just the adoption is doing your own homework so you can enter into the ones that are actually building that'll make it. Right. So we welcome everyone at the community. I love the chat where everyone's dropping in what they've invested in, what they've been into, and we'd love to deep dive into some of these down the road.
Yeah, absolutely. Guys, man, that's how you fill up a show. Thanks so much for tuning in. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you're not already. We're going to be back on Friday at 9 a.m. Eastern time to do this all over again. And it's Conspiracy Friday, Fuck It Friday, whatever you want to call it. We're going to be coming up with some interesting conspiracies. Obviously, we kind of hinted at one today already. Yeah. And so make sure you're tuning in. Jaime's going to bring his tinfoil hat.
Yeah, just for you, Codebug.
And also make sure you go check us out on Discord if you want to continue any of the conversations that we had today. It's absolutely free to join. The link is in the description. Would love to have you guys over there if you just can't get enough of DC TV. And let's close it out with some birthdays. So first up, we have Dave Bautista. If you guys don't know Dave Bautista, he was in Guardians of the Galaxy. He's really popping up in a lot of other things too. He was in Glass Onion. If you guys hadn't checked out Glass Onion, it's a great movie. He's 53 years old. Kevin Costner is 67. That fuckstick T. Higgins is 23. If you guys are a Ravens fan, you know what I'm talking about. Jason Segel is 42. And then we have, of course, Estelle, who's also 42. Then Sharon Mitchell. So listen, you guys know on the birthdays, I try to find porn stars, and it's a shtick, right? It's funny. Sharon Mitchell, to me, when I saw her name pop up this morning, she's 67 years old. I was like, well, that's an awfully vanilla porn star name. Like, she couldn't be in anything interesting. Let me tell you something. That the title list was an absolute fucking mile long.
You can put any candy you want on vanilla, though.
This is true. And that works to this example perfectly.
She tried everything, it looks like.
It took me a long time to find the titles that I actually really thought were hilarious, and there is a ton of them. So go look her up. But she was best known for 69 Pump Street, My Boyfriend and I Love Trannies, Load Warrior, Blackballed, and Lickety Slit. Guys, thanks so much for tuning in. We'll be back on Friday. We appreciate you so much. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe, and then go check us out in our Discord for absolutely free. And we'll see you Friday. Until then, keep calm and huddle on.
Justin, I agree with you. She's a good woman. She's a sweetheart. She put in the work.
She puts out.